we're talking a lot about reform and the potential now to build down the carceral state, and we've ignored or overlooked places where it's rapidly growing. And so what we're seeing now is law enforcement and immigration enforcement are colliding or converging, where they used to be quite separate systems, and we're essentially criminalizing the enforcement of immigration policy. So during the Reagan years, we had about 20 or 25,000 deportations a year. Under President Obama, we've had about 400,000 deportations a year until recently. So it's a dramatic increase in the number of people who are being deported, many of them being deported back to countries that they left as children, where they don't speak the language, and being deported for minor violations or for violations that they committed many years ago and have not committed a serious crime since then. Now what we're seeing is very similar. I feel like we're living through the 1960s and 70s again, where we criminalized race in the 1960s and 70s, and now this great unease that we have in this society and anxiety has landed on immigrants, and that's even prior to ISIS and the San Bernardino killings and things like that. And so we've created this misperception now that immigrants bring crime and increase crime rates, when the data actually tells us that immigrant populations suppress crime rates in gateway cities, and in cities that are not gateways for immigrants, but smaller cities, they neither suppress nor increase the crime rate. But we've created this misimpression now that immigrants are bringing lots of crime to the United States and are a destabilizing force. I think one point it's important to make is that the largest population now in the federal prison system are Hispanics. They're the largest plurality, larger than whites and larger than African Americans, and many of them are there for immigration-related offenses. So again, when we try to think about the carceral state in black-white terms, we really need to think about immigration, because again, drug crimes fueled a lot of the growth of the federal prison system, but immigration crimes are fueling much more. And the other thing to think about immigration is that if we care about crime and we care about protecting our borders, prosecuting so many petty immigration offenses and so punitively is taking up all the resources of people on the border. Many federal prosecutors will tell you, and we've had many studies done, that they're not pursuing the big drug crimes, they're not pursuing the big money laundering, the big trafficking of weapons, in part because so many resources are going into prosecuting and taking care of these petty immigration offenses. So that in fact, we're making ourselves more vulnerable rather than less vulnerable by having 80% of our prosecutors' time in their cases being taken up with petty immigrants at the cost of these much more serious crimes and threats.